I'd like to talk a little bit today about progress. I think that, when I was a young bodybuilder, my thoughts on progress were you couldn't work harder than me in the gym. And I was meticulous. I worked on my form. I read everything that I could read. I wanted to have more knowledge and understanding because I didn't have the genetic makeup to really prosper in that environment. And so I figured I could just work harder than everybody else, and that would allow me to make my accomplishments. And to a certain extent that worked, but the things that I didn't really realize until much later on in my career was that you make real progress at home, eating and sleeping. One of the hardest things for most of us to understand is, and for me as a personal trainer, what's really hard to say is that what you do in the gym is about 10% of what allows you to go forward. Um, it gives you that feel good for the day, that endorphin lift. Um, Elevates your mood, helps you with depression. I mean, it does so many things, but the real deal is that in our head is a picture of what we want to be. And whether we tell anybody or not, that picture is always there. And I think that, in order for us to make the real progress, what we need to understand is the other stuff that really makes that happen. I wasn't a great diet person. And I don't mean diet, I mean eating habits were not that great for me. When I was getting ready for something, I could be very strict for a certain period of time, 16, 18 weeks. But at the rest of the year, I ate terribly and it didn't help me make any gains. The other problem for me is that I don't sleep well. It's like I'm not like Napoleon in a lot of ways. I sleep about 4 hours a night. I would give money almost to sleep. And it's interesting when I go on vacation, after about the third day, I'm sleeping a lot. And I think it's just my body's opportunity to decompress and to actually slow down some. But the problem with that is that you don't get recovery. We need that sleep to get recovery. And I realized over time that I didn't recover very well because I didn't give my body the opportunity to do it. And I don't mean sleeping for 12 hours or something like that. You get 8 hours or, 7 hours. I mean, I think you need a certain amount of sleep in order for your body to come back from whatever you've asked it to do. And that's not just your workouts. I mean, what you have to understand is all the rest of the things that you do throughout the day are stressors. They have impact on your body's ability to come back from things. And so, things that we don't consider stress a lot of times, or we do consider it stress, have something to do with our body's ability to recover. And so I think that when we think about going forward, it's not just what we do in the gym, and that's such a hard concept. It's what you do at home, eating, sleeping, alcohol consumption. There's all these things that go into whether or not we're going to make great progress or not. And, it doesn't mean that we have to be super strict all the time and do all these things and adhere to everything. But I do think that we have to adopt a lifestyle that allows us to make progress. And I think what we find and what really, you see a lot is that when people change the way that they live, their level of progress, it elevates. And, so often I think I look at the gym and I see people change the way that they live. They don't just come in for an hour, do what they do and leave. They change the way that they live. And then you see all these other things in their life start to, elevate, accelerate. It's just amazing to watch. And it all comes from changing the way that you live. And I talk about lifestyle a lot because I think that that's what fitness is supposed to be. It's not something you do, it's how you live. And, I can remember when Arnold retired from bodybuilding, he said, I'm retiring from competing, but I will always be a bodybuilder. And I think that that frame of mind has to be the same for everyone. I mean, I think that fitness is something that we do because it's how we live, and that's why it's called fitness lifestyle, not fitness thing to do for the day. It's a lifestyle, and how we do that sort of embodies itself in how we make progress. And so, I encourage you as you go forward to really think about how you're doing your day to day. And so it's because the habits that we have sort of determine the way that we live and the lifestyle that we're able to have. And so, if you eat junk food all the time and drink every day and smoke, all that kind of stuff, you're going to have a bad outcome. I mean, that's just, there's no two ways about it. But if you think about cleaning some of those things up, I'm not saying you can't drink, but you don't have to drink every day. I'm not saying, and that's one of the hard things for people. It's like we tell them, well, you probably need to put that glass of wine down and maybe select days to do it. As opposed to I drink a glass of wine with dinner, I drink a glass after dinner, it's like that stuff's not helping you. And so, it's like like I'll say my wife says I eat out of a window way too often. That it's about the choices that you make at the window that makes a big difference. And so that doesn't make it any better. Don't get me wrong, And so my choices sometimes aren't that great, and doing things for convenience is a problem. But I think that at the end of the day, the majority of the time, I have a certain way that I like to live, and I've always lived that way since I was in my 20s when I first started doing this. And I try not to deviate from that, but so much. Um, and I think it lends itself to the way that I can perform, the things that I can ask myself to do, and how I am. And I think for most of us, that would be the same. And I think that, as you go forward, thinking about the way that you live life and the habits that you have will make a big difference in what kind of progress you make, whether it's in fitness or other things that you do.